All right, welcome to the Amplify radio show. I'm Bryce Mansfield, the co-host, but the actual host is
Tyler Hudson. Nice to meet you.
He finally hit the record button. That was so, folks. I'm just going to go ahead and preface this here before we get into what we were going to talk about today. We recorded the show one time prior to this, or at least we thought we were recording. I was mid-sentence. And Tyler looked down and realized he did not hit the record button. So
that's great.
That's a great job there.
Yeah.
But hey, we're recording now, and hopefully this will make it to the folks at home. So
I hope it does.
I will go ahead and pass it off to you, Mr. Host.
So Bryce, today our topic of discussion, we're talking about all things public speaking, how we can get better about it. How can we all improve in this horrible thing that so many of us dread, but it can be actually a wonderful thing. Today, we are talking about the topic of brainstorming. Now, I just wanted to discuss really with you what is brainstorming, some ways we can do it, some common misconceptions, that kind of stuff.
Oh, I like that preview you gave there.
Hey, thanks, man.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
We'll talk about that later. So, brainstorming, what is it?
Okay, brainstorming. Before I get into this definition here, it's interesting, and I know that we presented this to a class that came down in the center the other day.
Yep.
And I said that more people are fearful to speak in front of other people than they are to die, right?
Yes, yeah.
So that means, in theory, you're better off laying in the casket than you are giving the eulogy in that situation, right? So that's a rough situation there. But anyway, looked up the definition of brainstorming.
Sure.
And this is the one I found. It stuck out to me. It says brainstorming is the process where you produce an idea or way of solving a problem by holding a spontaneous group discussion. Now, spontaneous group discussion would be really nice back when I was in speech class, to walk in a room full of people with all these ideas, sit down and have a spontaneous group discussion,
right,
and come out with an idea. Awesome,
yeah,
right? In theory, great. In reality, never happens.
At all.
So we have to find ways to brainstorm on our own, by ourselves, just us and our minds, and somehow or another come out with a pretty decent idea, what we want to do.
Right. So now that we know the definition of brainstorming, and that would be, honestly, that'd be so great to just walk in and just start like firing off ideas.
Yeah.
But now that we know the definition of brainstorming, let's brainstorm. See what I did there?
Yeah.
Some ideas on how we can brainstorm. I'll just send it right back to you.
Okay, so I got some ideas. The first one I mentioned last show when we weren't recording.
We're gonna keep bringing that up.
That's all right.
The whole time. That's fine.
We'll
move on.
Yeah, we'll move on. So some ideas here. A big way I like to brainstorm. I'm a big visual learner.
Mm-hmm.
So for my visual learners out there, I would say write down any of your ideas on a sheet of paper. So I'll start with the subject. So let's pick a subject.
I'm gonna go with the Olive Garden.
Olive Garden?
Like the restaurant.
I mean, I
like when you're here, your family. It's those guys.
Okay. All right, let's go with Olive Garden. So,
better than my last one, I think.
Yeah, but we don't. We can't hear that last one, can we?
Because, they won't know. Yeah, they won't know.
Can't hear the last one. They won't know because we didn't record the last one.
And whose fault is that? It is mine.
It's all right. It's all right. Okay, so we have Olive Garden. You saw I wrote that down here on the sheet of paper.
I did.
Right?
I did see that.
People watching the video can see,
they
but
know that.
The people, yes. The people at home listening can't see, but you did verify that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wrote down Olive Garden. What about Olive Garden do we want to talk about?
Well, now here's where we get to the interesting part. Is it going to be an informative speech? Is this a persuasive speech?
Let's talk about the context.
Am I persuading anyone to go to the Olive Garden? You all should. But still, am I informing you of the delicious soup and salad deals they have going on right now?
Look, I'm telling you what, that soup and salad deal is awesome.
It's endless. It is endless.
It's great.
Let me tell you.
It's the cheapest thing they got, and it's awesome.
Well, you really need to consider, basically what I'm trying to get to is you need to consider what type of speech you're giving when you do that. But just off the cuff, Olive Garden, what are we discussing? Let's just throw down breadsticks.
Okay, so breadsticks. Sweet. We got breadsticks here. What else we got?
Pasta. They
homemade?
do that.
Is it homemade pasta?
It is pasta.
Debatable.
Let's just go. Let's move on from there.
Okay, got pasta. What else we got? So pasta sauce. Right?
Pasta sauce. Boom.
Yeah, pasta sauce.
It's delicious.
Yeah. Man, I'm getting kind of hungry.
Salad.
Over here. Salad. Okay, so now I've I've wrote down just a few of those subjects there we brought up.
Right.
So I have Olive Garden, we got breadsticks, pasta sauce, and salad. Right? Sounds great.
All delicious.
So then, now the fact that I have these down on paper is the first step.
Yeah.
The second step for me later on, so I'm going to take this home, not really, but in theory, if I'm working on a speech, I'm going to take this home, and then I'll sit down with it again, right? So at one point in time, this is my train of thought. I'm going to take it home. I'm going to go and sit down and start the brainstorming process again, and just start writing down more items. And what'll happen is I would say allow yourself about 1 to 2 days to brainstorm.
Yeah.
Because what you think one day can change on the next day depending on what you experience that day. So, for example, if I'm thinking breadsticks, pasta sauce, and salad one day, and then day 2 I end up going to Olive Garden and eating something else that's outside of that.
I'm jealous.
Right. Then what would happen is I could write down those ideas on day 2 and then take a look at what I have collectively and then figure out what I'm going to talk about.
For sure.
So that's just, I would say the most visual way to brainstorm is to write everything down and then go from there in terms of mapping it out.
Just as it comes to your brain, kind of like we were doing earlier, just start writing down random stuff as it relates to your topic. Just allowing yourself a few minutes. And honestly, you're right. It does take probably 1 to 2 days to actually fully brainstorm and form an idea like that. I'd say it's a very undervalued part of the speech making process, for sure. I have a few ideas here too of how to brainstorm if we need to. One, you can interview yourself. So what interests you? What are some things in your background? What's a vacation that you went on? All this kind of stuff, things that are about yourself that you could then speak on. So like your last vacation was to Florida. Maybe you have to give an informative speech. Give an informative speech about Florida, even what you did in Florida. That counts as an informative speech. Next, you can access the media. So go to the New York Times, go to Good Morning America, go to any website, like a reliable news source. Find things that might, interest you in some way. Maybe you have really strong feelings about something. Maybe if they're positive or negative, you can give a speech about those things.
You could.
And then, you can ask your friends and classmates, what are they interested in? What are some things that are relevant to them? Things that would make a really interesting, relevant, good speech. You can go politics. You can go music, reading, any, form of media, form of entertainment, but, make it relatable and relevant to your audience at the same time. So.
That makes sense. I'll hit on a couple of those things there that kind of stuck out to me. And I mentioned this last time when we weren't recording. I'll
3 times he's mentioned this.
I'll eventually let that go. So, misconceptions about brainstorming. Some people think walking into brainstorming, they have to know exactly what it is they want to talk about or exactly what it is they should do. The beauty in brainstorming is brainstorming tends to have, or you walk in with a lot of uncertainty. I'll put it that way, right? Yeah. Uncertainty can be both a scary thing and also a beautiful thing, because from there you can pretty much go whatever direction you want to go.
Sure.
If you walk into a space and you think you know exactly what it is you should do, you try to kind of stick to it. Whereas the brainstorming process, you're uncertain. It allows you to kind of move and gives you a little bit more flexibility in terms of what direction you want to go. You also mentioned audience, right? So you started talking about, hey, if you want to do a speech, make sure you do something that's relevant. Make sure you do something that's going to interest your audience. I always tell people, you want to engage that person that's going to potentially fall asleep during your speech.
Right? Yeah, that's really good.
You want to engage the person that might not have any sort of vested interest at all. So if I'm going to sit and talk about, I'll use sports because everybody uses sports as an example. So if I'm going to talk about basketball, for example, a person that doesn't play basketball, chances are, even if they're not interested in sports, okay, Tyler's in here raising his hand. You all can see there. But a person who's not interested in basketball, the least bit.
Yeah.
The question you have to ask yourself is, how do I engage that person and the person who's a basketball fanatic?
Why should they all care,
Yeah, you have to let them know what's in it for them.
Yeah.
And from there, you can start kind of weaving in these different components. I always say, make sure you make your speech relatable. The more relatable it is, the more people are going to be able to connect with it, and the more chance you have of people actually listening to the speech. So that's just something I want to touch on there real quick. And those are the things you should kind of consider in that brainstorming process. So that way, when you're writing down these ideas, you're thinking about those things and anticipating those things, so that way you can address those items in your speech.
For sure. Those are all some really good ideas. I think we hit on a lot of great brainstorming ideas here.
Yeah.
And honestly, at home, let us know in the comments below, what are some things that you struggle with in brainstorming or even in speaking? We're going to be doing a lot of these videos, and so we want to hear from you guys as well. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time. This has been Amplify Radio. Bye.